In this lesson, I'm going to show you how you can use a computer to help you write, to help you compose some drum beats. I use a couple of bits of software. Cubase is the digital audio workstation that I use, and I also use Toontrack Superior Drummer 3. That is what I also use when I'm playing on my drum kit, on the electric kit. Those are the sounds that I use as well in one of the Toontrack libraries. So I'm going to open up Cubase over here, and I go to Studio, VST Instruments, and normally you click there, which would be Add an Instrument, which is Superior Drummer 3. You have to have it all installed, obviously. It's not just there by default. And this is what it looks like when it opens. Now, this is a kit that I've put together myself in the Toontrack Modern Metal Easy X, which you can download from their website. And you may be familiar with these sounds because I use them in my drum lessons. Now, what I'm going to do is compose a drum beat completely from scratch. I haven't got an idea. I'm not playing it in. I'm just going to use a computer. And one of the benefits to using a computer for this is that we can write some things that we wouldn't perhaps think of when we just sat behind a drum kit. We can literally just write some things down that would either be too difficult for us to play, or conceptually we can think of an idea, which I'm going to prove in this lesson. I'm going to show you how to do in this lesson. We can think of an idea, but we can't just realize how to do it immediately behind a drum kit, and that's where a computer is really useful. So there's a couple of other things I like here. I'm going to have a tempo track, and I'm going to have a signature track, and they do literally what you'd think they do. Tempo track controls the speed of the song, and the signature, you can change it from 4/4 to whatever you want. So if I decide in a minute that, oh, this beat might be nice in 3/4 or 3/8 or 6/8 or 5/4 or anything else, we can do that in here. So I'm going to stay, just for now, I'm going to stay at 120 4/4, and I'm going to draw a little bar in there. I've got one bar of Midi, and we open this up. There's absolutely nothing there, so we have to write in what we want. I'm also going to tell Cubase, hey, I'm actually using drums, so I don't want a normal Midi map, I want a drum map. And what that does is it turns these into little points rather than long kind of lines, because when you hit an electric drum, it just records the hit and the velocity, so the dynamics of the hit, but it doesn't measure any kind of length. Whereas if you were playing on a keyboard and you held a note down, you'd also get some, it would record the length of the note. All we are interested in is the velocity and where in time it's going to land. I'm going to start with 16th notes. So I choose from my quantized panel up here, 16th notes. It goes all the way from just straight up notes all the way down to 128s, which would be crazy fast, and I don't know anyone that's playing those. And I'm going to start out with a kick. And I'm also going to put a couple of ghost notes in. I'm going to use a couple of different rows here for ghost notes. So I like to have the acoustic snare as the ghost note, and then electric snare down there as the rim shot. And for the ghost notes, what I'm going to do is just make them nice and quiet. Okay, so we've got something developing here. 4 little beats, real easy. Now, make one decision. I'm going to copy that. Okay, so... And I'm also just going to loop this after one bar so we get to hear it. Okay, so kick, ghost, ghost, snare, kick, ghost, ghost, snare. That's playable. I could do that. What happens if we make this one another ghost, and then we start the pattern again? Let's see what that's like. Okay, already this is starting to get more interesting. by adding one more ghost note in there, the pattern becomes a 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then it repeats there. So we've accidentally ended up with a cool 9-stroke pattern. Now, what that means is that because we're playing 16th notes, each of these is a 16th note. When we get to the 1, 2, 3 E, so 3 E and A, when we get to the 3 E, the pattern starts again. Now, that's too tricky for me to just go, oh, okay, I understand how to play this on the drum kit. So what I'm going to do is highlight my little pattern that I've just written, start on that 3E, and then paste it in again. Then we get to the 2 and, where it's going to start again, and so on. You can just copy and paste that pattern. So we then get to the 3E and A of the second bar and paste it in again, and you can keep doing that for as long as you like. And when we've got to the end of bar number 9, I think, no, when we've played it through 9 times, let's see, I'm pretty sure it's going to come back around and loop all by itself, but we have to paste it in quite a few times. Yes. So when we get through to the end of bar 9, it loops automatically. So that would be one full repetition for it to completely naturally repeat. So if I hit start here, I love that. See? So I like the groove immediately. I think that's neat. And it's going to loop 1, 2, 3, 4, loop. But because it's going round and round and round, at the moment it's difficult to determine where that's looping. As a human musician, it's difficult to just play that, obviously. So what I'm going to try now is just trying to realize how I'm going to play this pattern, because I'm realizing that we've got the 2 ghosts into a snare, ghost, ghost, snare, ghost there. So realistically, this is going to take, if it's played slower and I wanted to keep this beat as it is, it's going to take 2 hands, because there's a load of ghosts going on here, and going from an accent into a ghost into an accent back into a ghost. If I'm keeping this beat as is, I'm going to require 2 hands. So what I'm going to do is put my pedal hats in here, which are down here. There's my 4 pedal hats, and I just want them to be quarter notes. Actually, I don't want them to be 8th notes. That seems a bit much. So I'm going to put those in, and then we just copy those in. Okay, this is going to be cool. I'm liking this already. So at this stage, what I like to do is follow a rule. I change one thing. I'm going to change one thing about this groove. And the thing I'm going to change is I'm going to add a stack. So that's a stack. And I kind of like... there's 2 things we could do. I could follow the half note pattern that I just introduced there, which is very cool, but in doing this I would have to change the ghost notes. I think the ghost note pattern would be a little bit unachievable, although I challenge you to play the ghost note pattern if you like. absolutely challenging yourself. So okay, that's quite cool. And then that comes back around. We could change that one to a cymbal where it repeats, so we get now this is sounding nice. I think that first one just wants to be a slightly louder ghost. Instead of being like loud, really loud accents each time, we're going to put them as accents on the ghost note channel. So that one there becomes another ghost. That one becomes a ghost, that one becomes a ghost. Just moving every other one back onto the ghost note channel. Oops. And then you'd highlight these guys and just bring the volume down a little bit. And then do the same on the second half. And then on the very end there, I'm going to have a heel toe. So I like to have a da-da. I like something at the very end of a groove to make it feel as though it's wrapping round. So like that. See what I mean? Instantly, as soon as you put that little kick drum in at the end, it turns it's almost like a full stop at the end of that groove. And all I've done there is, that's on the 9th bar. I've put that kick drum in as it's the final 16th note, so 4 E and I put that in on the 4 E and at the end, and that comes back around. Now I'm liking how this sounds. So in terms of a neat little beat, that's not too bad. Now, how do I go about learning this then? Because that's not just something that you can quickly get down. Do you know what I mean? That's going to be something that's a little bit challenging to learn. So, okay, what can we do? We can take our tempo and we can slow it down. And we can listen at 90 BPM. So I would take that, slow it right down, and play it back at a speed at which I can start to understand it. And again, it may still be that the idea itself is too complex. You can't do all of the things. So it's like, okay, let's take out the pedal hats. Take those out so you can just mute them real easy. You mute all of these guys here. And you might be like, okay, it sounds great, but I can't put those stacks in yet, so let's mute the stacks. And then you're just working on the kicks, kick, ghost, ghost, kick, go, go, da. So you're just working on one of these repetitions, and then just copying and pasting that idea behind the drum kit. So I'll slow this down a little bit more. We're going to go to 80 BPM. And I'm going to go and try and realize what this idea is like behind a drum kit now. I've loaded up the Cubase project on my audio machine over here, and what I would do now is sit and just listen to that pattern over and over again at a speed at which I can mostly just work on the sticking. Because what's got to happen with a pattern like this is you have to spend time with it on repeat for the pattern to stop being something you have to think about and just start being something you can play. And the only way to get there isn't a cheat, there's not a hack. The only way to get there is by spending time listening to it, spending time repeating it. So that's going to be my next step. Okay. Now that's not easy. I'm still having to think about it quite a bit, but I'm going to speed it up a little bit. Maybe 5 BPM. I'll see what a 5 BPM increase feels like. See if I can get that going. Ultimately, I want to get to a stage where I don't have to think about that rhythm at all. I don't want to have to think about it. I want to be able to take out the drum backing track and just play that, which at the moment I'm not there. It feels a little bit clunky, so I need to spend a bit more time. So this is up at 85 beats per minute. So I can't do that yet. Ah. Yeah. Yes, okay. It's starting to get there. I'm starting to hear it. I'm going to speed it up a bit more again. I'm going to go up another 5 BPM, take it up to 90. And doing this, it's going to start to get to a stage where it's uncomfortable. Like it's past the point of sticking, of me like being able to really count where the sticking is, and I'm going to have to rely on feel, which it gets to that stage with something like this where you have to get past the sticking point and into just feeling it. I was starting to do that at 85. I was able to identify that. now that I'm starting to feel it a little bit more and think about it a little bit less, I'm going to see if I can get the hi-hats in. And because this is complicated, the starting point for me when trying to introduce the metronome over here, the hi-hat, to get that going, I'm going to place eighth notes, because playing the subdivisions instead of playing quarter notes, it just makes it easier at this stage to lock that in. Once I've got that comfortable, I can go back to trying to play the quarter notes. But to get the left leg involved, to get that involved and to get it moving, I'm going to introduce it as eighth notes. That's starting to move now. I'm starting to feel the pedal hats more. That was really tricky at first. I'm starting to think a lot less about the beat. I'm starting to actually think about the sticking of the beat. Instead of it being right, left, right, just singles, like doing a right, left, left. And it could even be a like you could move it around the toms a little bit, but it'll take me a while to get to a stage where I can do that. So the next stage for me, I think, is to try and get this to be a quarter note count. That might be very tricky. We'll find out in a second. And another thing that we can do is increase the tempo a little bit. So I'm going to knock this up from 90 to 95, and I'm going to try and get the pedal hats to count quarter notes instead of eighth notes. Honestly, still very tricky, but I know that it's possible. I know that it's possible to play the ghost notes, the kick, the quarter notes is what I want on the pedal hat, and the next stage is to try and get those the stack in, and that is going to be tricky. So now I've hit a personal roadblock. I need to sit with the idea just on loop and listen to where that stack is landing in comparison to the beat that we've been learning. I can play it differently. I'm starting to see a pattern in it when I'm playing it, but I've got to work my way through that fog. And the best way that I know to do that is literally with the groove just on loop, listening. So not even necessarily playing, just listening and listening and listening. Doing that for me unlocks something that wasn't there before. And if I do that for maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours with this particular loop, that's going to get to a stage where when I come back to the kit, I don't have to think about it as much. And so that's the next stage for me. So I'm going to go away, close all of this down, do that, come back and see what the improvement is like. Okay, it didn't take a couple of hours. I've sat with the idea. I listened to it. I've looped it at 80 beats per minute. So I sat at 80 beats per minute and just went over it and over it and over it. And I've probably just been playing the same loop for 30 minutes. And I'm now at a stage of relative comfort. I'm not doing the hi-hat chicks yet. I'm keeping my 8th note going just on the heel. I've just had to shut off all distractions and laser beam focus on this groove until the pattern starts to sink in. Let me show you where I've got to. So I'm sitting with some comfort there, and that entire process from writing the groove on the computer and deciding, hey, I'm going to put one ghost note after this little 4 riff that I just wrote. I'm going to put one ghost note there. Then I'm going to make that a 9. Cool. I'm going to now just copy and paste that. And in order for that to loop all the way around, we're going to have to play it over 9 bars. And that requires some time. Like, you're not just, like, no one really is just going to be able to sit and go, cool, I've got that. That's an incredibly difficult thing to try and do. So you have to take it in stages. And I think I've demonstrated in this lesson the stages that you can go through to help identify, help write, a really cool little groove from nowhere. That idea didn't exist before I started recording this lesson. So just as a demonstration, as a concept, you can start in a computer. That's a brilliant place to start. I've now got a new feel, a new thing that I can carry on developing, and now at this point I could record my idea back into the computer the way that I'm playing it, because I'm playing some more ghost notes. I've realized some new ways of phrasing it, and I could play that back in and then say, cool, okay, let's change this in a computer. Do I want to play a dotted pattern with the right hand? Do I want to play some kind of polyrhythm with the left foot? It's just about realizing this idea that you couldn't realize without a computer. And had I not started that, had I not just made that decision to put one more ghost note in at the end of that 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have had the idea. So get a computer. I mean, you have a computer, I'm sure, but get the ability, invest in the ability to write things using a computer, because it's super easy. It sounds great. You've got a perfect reference point to listen to, and you don't even need, I mean, I'm using Cubase and TuneTrack software, but you can get Guitar Pro. Guitar Pro is fantastic software. It's what I use to do the transcriptions and the slowdown videos. I upload my Guitar Pro files for those things, and you can do the exact same thing in there. It sounds like MIDI drums because it is MIDI drums, but you can still write things and play them back to you. And to demonstrate this wasn't a complete fluke, let me go back to my computer now and I'll write another couple of beats to show you other ideas, other possibilities. Okay guys, we are back at the other computer, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of things. First off, if you have just recorded a beat, which we have here, we have the beat in front of us, there's a couple of cool things you can do. You might decide that, and you can do this with any beat, absolutely anything. What happens if we set a loop point, right? We're going to set a loop point to be here. It gives us another groove. Like just looping that one thing gives you another groove. And you can do that at any point. So you could decide, hey, I want to see what bar 8 is like. Which is kind of cool. Not only can you do that, you can also be like, what if this was a 5? So I've got one bar of 4 and then a quarter note into the 9th bar. What if this was a 5 loop? That's kind of cool. So what you could then do is take everything that's there, and then over here we're going to paste this in. This is a new idea that we're putting together. And then you could literally, like we did before, at the point at which it finishes, which is there, the first beat, or beat number 5, start again, start again, start again. Now, you'll see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars there. So what I could do is just put the loop point there and there. Now, this is kind of cool. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. So at the moment, we've got that stack starting again. I'm not a huge fan of that, so I'm going to make the stack continuous. So where it starts again there, and then it carries on, starts again there, I'm just going to make that flow all the way through. So we're going to move that forward, take that one out, move that one forward, move that one forward, and then that one will disappear. So now, and at that point, it's going to loop, so we'll turn that into a symbol of some kind. And similar thing here, we could move this kick to be, somewhere different at the end. So we end up with a conclusion. We end up with that full stop again. So let's go to the last 2 bars. There you go. And then that's going to feel as though it's looping around. So from the groove that we took earlier, we just decided randomly, hey, what does it sound like if we start here? And it sounds like that. And we looped it as a 4. We then extended it one more to loop it as a 5. That sounded cool. So we then took that and extended it out so that it loops 5 times, but we're going to play it over, 4 times it plays through, but over 5 bars. That's just one thing you can do. That's like another idea, just taking one step each time. And then I could sit and learn this beat in the exact same way that I learned the previous one. Now, let's say we want to get rid of the snares, and we just want them to be like on a backbeat. We just want it to be like a heavier groove. So we could come out of this kind of groove. Let's make a new one over here. And we could quite simply put the snares just on the 1, 2, 3, 4. And that could be a slightly louder ghost note again. So there's your snare this time. set the loop point. So, and that's your ghost note again. Again, slightly louder just to add a bit of dynamic difference. Oh, get rid of that ghost note there. Let's move that one to there. Let's get rid of that one. That's going to be there. I'm just going to move them all into the middle of the bar, and then we'll navigate anything around it that we need to navigate. See, it feels like there's a gap there that I don't want there, so I'm going to put a little ghosty. I don't know if I'd play kick, the kick with the snare there, so that ghost note's too loud coming out of there, so what I'll do is move that one over. And then that little gap, I don't want that. And then at the end, I think I'll have a couple of toms instead of these guys. Really easy groove. I mean, it maybe isn't easy to play, but the way that we've realised it is with that repeating pattern. We just took a repeating pattern that was a 9. We realised the beat before it, and then afterwards we've put instead of having the snares in the previous place where they matched up with that 9 count, we've put them on the 3. It's a super effective way of coming up with these more complex grooves. And then the way to learn this is, once again, take it back in time, and then you sit with it at a slower tempo, and just like I did earlier, you spend a bit of time with it at a slower tempo, and the patterns that are in that groove, they start to present themselves after a while, but you have to spend the time with it. There's not a shortcut. But that's what I do, and that works. And there's 3 grooves out of one simple idea, and the idea started literally with that, and that. That was it. Those 4 notes there, that is literally where the idea started, and I just made one change each time to turn it into the grooves. Now we've got multiple grooves that we can choose from. Easy way to write. So guys, the challenge for this lesson for you is to use the methods, the concepts that I've presented in this lesson to come up with your own beat, something that you can't currently play, something that you don't currently know. You've got no idea what the beat's going to be, but sit with something that allows you to write, to compose, and make the types of changes that I've just made. You start out really small with a couple of 16th notes. You make a short pattern, make it 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, however long you want it to be, and then copy that. And then if you make it an odd number, it's going to repeat at an interesting point against your 4. If you start out with a 4 count, maybe you start out with a 3 count or a 5 count or a 6 or it can be absolutely anything. It doesn't have to be 4/4. But I'd love to see you use the concepts that I've talked about here to come up with something completely fresh that you can't currently play, because having worked through that process, it might take you a couple of hours to come up with something. It might take you a couple of weeks to get to the point where you can play it, but once you've gone through that process and you've done that a few times, it all of a sudden becomes not so daunting to write and realize way more interesting beats than you can even think of. Just use technology to your advantage, and you can write some amazing things without really having to think about it.